In this story from Season 2, Episode 12, a family that has moved into a new home has to deal with a giant ghostly face with big red eyes that keeps floating through the air and screaming at people in the middle of the night. It first appears while the family's son is sneaking cookies and milk, but the family starts taking things seriously when the mother sees the face in the same spot. After the family discovers that the house's original owner took his own life in the garage, they hold a family meeting to discuss the paranormal presence. Once they start chatting about the haunting, it's clear that the nanny doesn't believe that anything's happening, and she does her best to dispel the idea of a ghost. At the end of the story, the nanny tucks the boy into bed before her eyes turn red in the final scene. As outlandish as this is, it was inspired by an actual event. This creepy story from Season 1, Episode 2, dives into the fear of the unknown that we all have, but with a creepy twist. In the story, a young boy named Danny is terrified by a monster in his closet, so much so that he sleeps downstairs on the living room couch as much as possible. Everyone knows how much the closet freaks Danny out thanks to his older brother telling the whole school. His mother tells the viewers that he's labeled as a coward by the bullies. When Danny tries to confront his bullies, they drag him upstairs and threaten to lock him in the closet. Danny dares his brother to go into the closet first, and when he does, something gets him. Or at the very least, he's never seen again. To say that this scene is emotionally scarring is an understatement. As wild as the story is, it's supposedly based on a real-life event. Season 3, Episode 11, offers so many twists and turns that it can't possibly be based on a true story, or can it? In this episode, a man named Leon is struck with a condition where he can't stop sleepwalking. The affliction gets so bad that he has to have bells tied to his wrists, and after he knocks over his daughter's dollhouse, his doctor suggests binding him to his bed to keep him safe. After visiting a psychic, Leon learns that he's been hexed, and that he's doomed to wander the night for the rest of his life. That's not the worst part. At some point, he's just going to keep walking, and one night, he's going to leave his home in the middle of the night and never return. That's exactly what happens a few nights later, and after his wife fails to locate him, his daughter finds a doll version of him tied up to a bed in the dollhouse that he accidentally broke. This freaky story is supposedly similar to one that took place in Florida. A funeral home is the site of a spooky and semi-heartwarming tale from Season 1, Episode 2 of the series. It follows a young man who is left home alone in his family's funeral home while they're at a movie. Earlier in the day, an elderly woman asked to postpone her husband's funeral because he's missing his military medals. She can't seem to find them, and she wants to make sure that her husband is buried with them. That evening, while the young man is alone in the house, an older man knocks on the front door and asks if he can see the remains of the man whose funeral is being postponed. He claims that he has the man's medals. After leaving the elderly man alone with the cadaver, he returns to find that the man he was just showing around was actually the guy who had passed, and that he was bringing himself his own medals. Could this story have really happened? According to the show, yes. A creepy tale from Season 4, Episode 6, tells the story of a woman and her sick mother who attempt to check into a hotel, but their reservation is messed up, so they have to take a different room. Luckily, there's one room left, room 245. Once inside, the mother's health goes downhill, and her daughter has to step out to get her antibacterial prescription filled. Once she has the prescription, the young woman absent-mindedly leaves it with the hotel's concierge. When she goes back to grab the meds, they're gone, and the concierge says that he's never seen her before. She explains that she and her mother are staying in room 245, but when they go to find her mother, there's no one there. Not only that, but everything in the room has been changed around. As outlandish as this is, it happened in Paris at the turn of the century. Season 4, Episode 5 is a truly chilling entry in Beyond Belief that tells the story of a young woman hired to house sit for Lloyd Thompson, an architect who's gone overseas for a month. Everything's going fine until she's barraged with strange footage of a man mixing something with a shovel on the family TV. No matter what she does, the channel switches back to the unsettling footage. After unplugging the TV, the young woman continues to hear the sound of scraping and mixing, so she does the only thing that makes sense. She follows the sound into the basement. Once she's down there, she realizes that she's in the same room from the footage, and that's when she finds a video camera. It plays the same footage that she saw earlier, just as she hears someone shouting for her help. The house sitter finds a woman in the ash catcher, who explains that Mr. Thompson tried to bury her alive before taking off for Europe. In spite of the myriad twists and turns, it's revealed that a similar incident occurred near the Oregon-California state line. In Season 2, Episode 8, the story of a cursed chair is brought up that seems too spooky to be true, but is it? In the story, a large, cursed, hooded chair is purchased by steel magnate George Talbot. The chair has a history of cursing everyone who sits in it, but Talbot doesn't believe in some curse, so he immediately takes a seat. Nothing happens to Talbot, but after his maid sits in the 3,000-year-old chair, she is hit by a drunk driver while crossing the street. A few days after that, one of Talbot's friends sits in the chair, and he perishes in a plane crash. Talbot's life crumbles around him as his company falls apart, and he bleeds money, but was it because of the chair? He later discovers that the chair was owned by Napoleon while he planned Waterloo, the greatest military defeat of all time. Before he can chop the chair to bits, Talbot suffers a heart attack, and that's the end of him. The wildest thing about this story is that it's based in fact, so keep an eye out for that chair. The opening story of Beyond Belief from Season 1, Episode 1 is really eerie. This creepy tale tells the story of a woman who, after suffering a nervous breakdown, can't stop seeing the ghost of a deceased woman standing behind her in her home's second-floor mirror. No matter what she does, the woman continues to appear as if she's trying to say something, and it's super creepy. Her therapist nixes the idea of getting rid of the mirror, but she does cover it with a blanket, which mostly works. One night during a thunderstorm, the woman is all alone when a man breaks into her home and tries to take advantage of her. She runs upstairs, and that's when the man sees the ghost in the mirror. He freaks out and runs off, but he's caught by the police shortly afterward. According to the authorities, the woman in the mirror was his first target. Wildly enough, this is actually a true story. A woman has to deal with some serious issues in Season 4, Episode 3, after she runs afoul of bad luck. While remodeling her home with a friend, a young woman drops a giant mirror in her living room, sending shards of glass across the floor. Her friend begs her to not clean it up. Her friend says that if she cleans it up, she'll have 7 years of bad luck, but if she leaves it on the floor for 7 hours, she'll only have bad luck for that amount of time. The woman agrees to her friend's demand, and things get out of hand quickly. Her plumbing becomes backed up, paper towels go everywhere, and her fuses blow, causing a fire. That's hardly the worst of it. Shortly afterward, a man breaks into her house and tries to take advantage of her. As soon as the 7 hours are up, her power comes back on, and the guy runs off, or so she thinks. While she sweeps the glass, he climbs through a window and tries to get her, but he's impaled on a piece of glass instead. According to Beyond Belief, the story is completely true and happened somewhere near Washington, D.C. Season 3, Episode 9 makes a case for cats being unstoppable friends with the story of Precious, a cat that no one can see but its owner. According to the story, a young woman named Wendy is obsessed with her cat and continues to play with it even after it's hit by a car. It's just that no one can see the cat except for her. When her parents call a psychologist to see if she can talk some sense into their daughter, the audience sees Wendy petting a cat that isn't there. Weirder still, the food that the girl puts in a bowl disappears as if it's being eaten, and something's been clawing up the furniture. The psychologist decides to take some pictures of Wendy holding the invisible cat. When the photos are developed, Wendy's parents find their beloved daughter holding a big furry cat. While this sounds totally made up, it's supposedly inspired by an actual event that took place near Paris in the 1950s. One of the few haunting stories that also manages to be positive comes in Season 2, Episode 8, with the story, A Joyful Noise. This tale concerns a church choir that has to be on time whether they're performing at a Sunday service or just practicing. The group's leader, Sister Louise, not only chastises her group for being late, but she also reminds them constantly that they have a schedule to keep. On a practice day, everyone is running late. One singer has engine trouble, another has to deal with a double blowout, and all the clocks stop in one woman's home, and she loses track of time. Even Sister Louise can't make it to the church. She runs into construction on her normal route and has to take the long way to the chapel. When she arrives, she discovers that the church has suffered a broken gas line and combusted. Each member of her choir survived because they were late. Was it dumb luck? An act of divine intervention? Or was the story fabricated? Supposedly, this actually happened. This classic tale from Season 2, Episode 6, follows a woman who finds herself in the middle of a real-life horror story as she takes a road trip to see her mother. After stopping for a bite to eat at a sleazy bar, she gets paranoid that she's being followed. Someone driving behind her keeps flashing their brights and honking their horn as she drives faster and faster, but she can't escape. The car behind her finally succeeds in making her skid off the road, and after she's stopped, the driver gets out of the car and tells her to get away from the car. That's when she discovers that there was a creepy guy hiding in her backseat with a knife. Jonathan Frakes says that this story is false, but remember to check your backseat anyway. First and foremost, thank you for listening and for your continued support on the channel. It is so deeply appreciated, and I greatly enjoy connecting with every one of you. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more unnerving tales, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Share this video with your friends and comment below. Which of these eerie tales gave you the creeps and chills? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section.